Hey everybody, it's Kaladesh, and welcome back to another premiere draft of Kaladesh Remastered. This is one of my favorite draft formats of all time because I love artifact-focused sets, and this one has a lot of cool and unique mechanics going for it. It's got the energy mechanic, it's also the first set to ever introduce vehicles to the game, and there's a lot of artifact token production with servo token production off of cards with the Fabricate mechanic, as well as just Thopter production in general. So a lot of cool artifact-centric stuff going on, but without further ado, let's just hop into this classic format and see where the cards take us today. For our pack 1, pick 1, I think this is a pretty easy Fairgrounds Warden. Any creature that manages to be a removal spell on a stick tends to play pretty well in any draft and sealed environment, and Fairgrounds Warden is no exception, being able to exile any creature until it leaves the battlefield. So super solid removal there. There's other options like Hungry Flames and Chandra's Revolution for removal spells, but this one can exile anything regardless of the size, and it leaves you with a body on the board. So we'll start with that Fairgrounds Warden. We move on to pack 1, pick number 2. We've got a pretty solid direction to immediately hop on if we take the Veteran Motorist. This would push us into a red-white vehicles deck, but it would be a super strong card for that archetype. Being able to scry 2 when it hits the board while being a solid-sized body for just 2 mana, and it's going to buff any vehicles we crew up with it. We could take a more flexible card as well, because there's some really powerful mono-colored cards in this pack. There's a Gifted Aetherborn, 2 mana, 2/3 Death Touch lifelink. Pretty self-explanatory, but really nice for that mana cost. It's always going to be relevant because of that Death Touch mechanic, and lifelink can make it super hard to race. Thriving Rhino is very impressive for the mana cost as well, using that energy mechanic to make it basically a 3 mana 3/4 all by itself, which is just really beefy. Subtle Strike's a pretty excellent combat trick. I think I am just going to immediately push onto this red-white vehicles deck, but I think one of these mono-colored cards would also be a pretty excellent pickup. For pack 1, pick 3 now, we've got a Prophetic Prism if we want to stay super open, but the way that we've chosen to draft here is kind of the opposite direction. Immediately grabbing a multicolored Signpost uncommon, so we're already kind of committed towards red-white here. But Prophetic Prism is generally a really nice early pick. The goggles can be decent as well. A lot of the best creatures in the format are Artificers, and they have good abilities like First Strike or Flying, where getting a little buff can go a long way. So these are the most flexible cards in the pack, but we're likely just taking something like Inventor's Apprentice for just a beefy creature for the mana cost, on color to the way that we're pushing already. So let's grab an Inventor's Apprentice here. And pack 1, pick 4, we get really lucky. We get past another Veteran Motorist to make it look perfectly reasonable that we just immediately locked in on red-white and never looked back. Kind of the opposite of how I usually like to draft this format. Part of what I love about artifact formats is your ability to scoop up a bunch of cards like Prophetic Prisms and Sky Skiffs and stuff like that early, and just be completely open to whatever gets passed to you because you're just drafting all of these colorless artifacts to start off. So this is a pretty weird return to the format, just immediately insta-locking into a 2-color pair, but I'm cool with it. If we're going to get multiple of the Signpost uncommons for the archetype, it's going to be a perfectly powerful place to be, so we'll keep heading in that direction as we move on to pick number 5. And here's the Sky Skiff, which is a super high pick in this format for me. It's one of those cards I was mentioning, like Prophetic Prism, where it's just really solid for its mana cost. It's going to fit excellently into almost any deck in the entire format, and because it's colorless, you can take it really highly and know that it'll end up in your deck no matter what. So really high on Sky Skiff, but again, because we've got that double Motorist here, we already know where we're going to be, so it wouldn't be unreasonable to just take the on-color removal over it, because we're kind of locked into our colors right off the bat. That being said, I'm not the biggest fan of pacifism-style removal or like Revoke Privileges, and we do want to get some solid vehicles to go with our double Motorist, so I'm still going to take the Sky Skiff here. I just think we absolutely could be taking some colored spells over some artifacts at this point in the draft. We're pretty locked in. For pick number 6, we have a Dawnfeather Eagle for an incredible finisher. This is really good at the top end of your curve, being a solid-sized flyer to close out the game in a few swings, while also giving your board a big buff to get a huge swing in that turn. You get to crack in with your whole team and still leave your shields all the way up because you're giving everyone vigilance. So this is just a really good enter the battlefield effect, really good card to have at the top end of the curve. Might take this over the revoke privileges. Again, we do want some removal, but I've already got one Fairgrounds Warden, and with our secondary color being red, I do prefer almost every common red removal spell over those pacifism-style white removal spells. So we are crossing our fingers to find some red removal spells throughout this draft to help make sure we've got enough interaction. But I think it's okay to do so, because there's a lot of good red removal at common. Pick number 7 is pretty empty for us. We are not very interested in Conviction or Hijack. Off color, the best cards are Rush of Vitality, which is a huge combat trick because it can swing Erase in your favor a lot. Get your creature to trade up and gain 1,000,000 life, or there's like the bounce spell of Leave in the Dust. I'll just take the Leave in the Dust here. I think whatever we take is unlikely to get played. It's just like, if we somehow get pushed onto blue or pushed onto black, it'll be a super reasonable card. Not a fan of Ruinous Gremlin, Destructive Tampering, or Aether Inspector here. I think they all do just a little bit too little for their respective mana costs, so I would rather speculate again and grab another blue spell so we have a backup color. Pick number 9, Spireside Infiltrator is perfectly fine. Very filler, but a 3-mana 3/2 that pings your opponent every time it becomes tapped is fine when you have a lot of vehicles in your deck, because then you can keep tapping it, even if it's not in a good position to be attacking with it. Because you can always crew your vehicle just at the end of your opponent's turn, even if you're not going to use the vehicle. So I'll take the Infiltrator here, but I do like Shipwreck Mori a lot for energy decks, and Night Market Lookout's really good for vehicle decks. Every time that one becomes tapped, you drain your opponent for a life, and that one only costs 1 mana to play instead of 3. But we're obviously not in black right now, we're in Boros. Pick number 10 is all some nonsense. I think the best card would probably be the Flexible Combat Trick, just because it's pretty efficient mana-wise. It's not very impactful, but it doesn't have to be that impactful when it's a 1-mana instant, so it could be fine filler. Take a Salivating Gremlins now. Built to Smash, I think, is a better trick than the Alley Evasion. It only works on attacks, but if you use this in the right position, it's 1 mana +3/+3 trample. Just kill your opponent's blocker and still get some damage in. It can be absolutely massive when cast at the right time for a very, very cheap mana cost. All right. And here we are for pack 2, pick 1. A little sad to be so locked in this early and not be able to take this Bristling Hydra, because I think this card's incredibly powerful. A 4/3 that gives you enough energy to give itself a +1/+1 counter and hexproof 1 time. Already absolutely insane by itself, but if you are an energy deck like green-blue or green-red, it becomes even more absurd. One of the best rares in the format. I think Hydra's an incredible card, but we have 2 other really good options here. We have Pacification Array that basically anybody's going to take because it's colorless and it fits excellently into any deck. Very flexible card for shutting off attackers or blockers or whatever you need to do. There's also Renegade Wheelsmith, which is definitely a little better than Pacification Array for this deck exactly, but it's only really going to work in this deck, so it's possible we can wheel it if no one else is in red-white. It's a bit of a risk to trying to wheel it here, but I think I'm going to take the Pacification Array and see if I can get the Wheelsmith back. We could also have taken the 2-mana 2/1 First Striker, the Aether Charger, or whatever it was called. I think that was another super reasonable pick, because that's another one that's unlikely to wheel, because that was a really powerful mono-colored common. Pack 2, pick 2, let's get some of that great red interaction with Chandra's Pyrohelix. Very nice in this format. Being able to just kill a 2-toughness creature at instant speed for 2 mana is perfectly reasonable, but this is a format that has plenty of 1/1 servos, 1/1 Thopters, it's got 3/1s, it's got 2/1s, so sometimes you get to kill 2 creatures off of your 1 removal spell that only costs you 2 mana, and in those positions it's incredible. So we'll take the Pyrohelix here. Airdrop Aeronauts is fine at the top end, but I think we're a little more lacking on that good interaction like Pyrohelix, so I'll take that before I take the Airdrop Aeronauts. Alright, pack 2, pick 3, no respect for Pacification Array. Now I feel really sad about my pack 1, pick 1, because While the first copy is incredible, there is definitely diminishing returns. The fact that it costs you 2 mana to tap something with this means that it is going to soak up a lot of your mana if you have 2 copies of this on the board. It's 4 mana to tap 2 things. So it's hard to get use out of a second copy, but there's nothing else in this pack that's particularly good. We would just take like an Aviary Mechanic for a 2/2 on curve, or a Fire Weaver for a 1/3 that pings our opponent for a couple points of damage throughout the game. So I'm still going to take another Pacification Array, but we would have been in a much better position, probably if we took the red common over the Pacification Array. Pack 2, pick 1, but obviously there's no way of knowing that we're going to get past another Pacification Array. The odds of just 2 of them having been opened that close together are not that high, let alone it getting past. Take another Dawn Feather Eagle for a solid top-end finisher once again. Yep, I like that a lot. Fanatic's like okay. The 1 toughness is pretty bad. Can give your vehicles haste, which is cute, but pretty narrow. Doesn't super pay off for being just kind of small for its mana cost. We'll just take the Eagle. All right, well, this is a really good sign for trying to wheel the other red-white uncommon, because that is now a pick 5 veteran motorist. So none of these 4 players were in red-white, so we just need none of these 3 to take that red-white card, unless they did the same thing as us and they took like a Pacification Array over the motorist and they're trying to wheel that, which could be the case. There's a lot of really powerful colorless cards in the format that you want to take super highly and try to wheel your signpost uncommons. So I guess there is still a chance somebody else is in red-white, but it's still a good sign. It's better than like not seeing any red-white uncommons running around. All right, pick number 6. Now we do take a random 2 mana 2/2 on curve. I think, because this is a vehicle, so it's not always going to be attacking blocking turn 2. So we currently have 3 2-drops, 1 1-drop. So Countless Gears Renegade, I guess. 2 mana 2/2. If one of our permanents left the battlefield the turn we played it, we also get a 1/1. So if we can trigger that revolt, it's really good, because a 1/1 servo is great when you have vehicles that crew for just 1 power. So I think we take that over Eager Construct, but there's nothing exciting here. We could take Garrison just to have more vehicles, but it is not a good vehicle. It would just be upping the count. Got another Built to Smash, or Fireforger's Puzzle Knot. Fireforger's Puzzle Knot is kind of the poor man's Chandra's Pyrohelix. It's going to be able to deal 1 to 2 different targets, or 2 to the same target if you have enough mana, but it's going to do it for a lot more mana than Pyrohelix. I think I'm just going to pass up on that, take another Built to Smash here. Pick number 8. We get an Eddy Trailhawk or an Audacious Infiltrator. Both are solid 2-drops. This one gets to send any other threat into the sky alongside it, so it can help these motorists jump into the sky and get a bunch of extra damage in. The Infiltrator can't be blocked by artifacts, so it isn't going to just get killed by a servo like other cards could. I think I prefer the Eddy Trailhawk because we have 3 2-mana 3/1s to jump into the sky alongside it, and these can absolutely get blocked by a 1/1 servo and killed, so having a way to jump those into the sky to get extra damage in feels pretty solid. We did get the Wheelsmith to come back to us, pick 9. We did not get the red common, the Aether Chaser, the 2/1 first strike that spits out a 1/1 servo when it attacks. So that's a little sad. I would have much preferred having 1 Pacification Array and 1 Aether Chaser to double Pacification Array. But couldn't see the future there. I think we're still in a really good position. I think this deck looks great right now. We only need 3 more playables out of the last pack. Suppose now with triple Motorist and a Wheelsmith, which have really good abilities when they become tapped, or really good abilities when they crew vehicles, we will take the more filler mobile Garrison to up that vehicle count. Night Market Lookout is that black common I was talking about that's really good with crew 1 vehicles like Skyskiff. Obviously we're not in black, but did want to shout that out. The card plays really well with the right stuff. All right, pack 3, pick 1. What a pack to open up. This feels pretty great. So, I guess it's slightly awkward because we're not going to get Chandra's Revolution back. Still feel like I have to take Cultivator's Caravan because this card works really well with triple Motorist. Crewing this with a Motorist means it's a 6/6 attacking or blocking. Crewing it with a Wheelsmith means it's a 5/5 and we stop something from blocking. We have a lot of good 3-power creatures to crew a 5/5 with, so I just think Caravan looks really good for this deck. And what I really like about this pack is we wheeled a Renegade Wheelsmith last pack, so we're pretty locked in to do the same here and get another Renegade Wheelsmith into this deck, which seems pretty good. Our interaction is weak enough, though, that it might be worth taking Chandra's Revolution over the Caravan. The Caravan's the cooler card, it's the rare, I'm going to take it, but I think it would also definitely be reasonable to just take that removal spell there, and maybe even correct to do so. Pack 3 pick number 2, we have no 4-mana cards on curve, and Scrapper Champion's one of the best ones in the format, all by itself, with no other energy production. This is a 4-mana 2/2 double striker, but the first time it attacks, it turns itself into a 3/3 double striker, and a 3/3 double striker is insane. Already, if you have any other energy production, you can make it even bigger, and if you have cards like Built to Smash, if your opponent doesn't block, they just die. You make it a 6/6 double striker with that +3/+3. Now, you don't give it trample, because it's not an artifact creature, but still, this card is insane by itself, and even better when you have some random combat tricks, and we've got some random combat tricks, so we'll go for the Scrapper Champion here. Fill something in here at 4 mana. Pack 3, pick 3, we've got another filler 2-drop, but I've got 5 of those now. I don't think I need to take that over just some decent fixing here. Inspiring Vantage being a very solid dual land. Dual lands that hit the board tapped all the time are already okay in Draft and Sealed, and this one is sometimes untapped, so it's a bit better than that. We'll just take Inspiring Vantage, help our mana base a little here. Pack 3, pick number 4, there's that Aether Chaser, one of the best commons in the set. These 2-mana Aether cards are incredible. They come with the energy they need to use when they attack to spit out a servo, so it's basically a 2-mana 2/1 first strike that comes with a 1/1 servo, which is nuts. I think I'm going to take the Aether Chaser here, but there is another very reasonable option of the Ballista Charger. Not a lot of decks want this card, but this is the exact deck that can use this card perfectly fine. We would draft this and cut our Mobile Garrison for it. This would be a good card for the top end because we have so many 3-power creatures to crew it with. I think I'm going to take the Aether Chaser still, though, because I think that card is just so good on curve. And we've already got solid finishers with just like double Dawn Feather Eagle. If we spit out a wide board state, getting a servo off an Aether Chaser or something like that. Pack 3, pick 5. None of these on-color cards are cards I'm going to play. So I'll just rare draft one of these uncommons. I'll hold down that Alt key, see what I need for the collection. And it looks like we don't have a playset of Spire Patrol yet, so I'll grab one of those. Pack 3, pick number 6. Once again, nothing much for us. Demolition Stomper's a little bit too narrow. You've got to get to 6 mana. You have to have 5 power worth of creatures to crew it with. And you need to be in a position where it's good to do that, to tap most of your board to attack with a single 10/7. It can't be chump blocked by really small creatures, but still, I'm just not gonna play that. I'll grab the Oath of Ajani for the collection there. So we can cut some of our more mediocre creatures like Salivating Gremlins to put cards like Glint Sleeve Artisan in now. I think that looks pretty good to me. It's another card to help get that board state wide, 3 mana for a 2/2 and a 1/1 to go with our double Dawn Feather Eagle. I think that's fine. Another Eddy Trailhawk would be fine too. It works great with the triple Motorist, but I'll take the Artisan here. Pick number 8. I think Wildest Dreams is actually okay in this format. It's really slow, but it's going to win you the game if you can survive to where you can cast this for 3 or 4 cards from your grave. Like, it's almost impossible to lose after doing that. You're just so far ahead from then on. And obviously there's nothing on colors, so we might as well just draft something that would have been nice. Pick 9. We get that Renegade Wheelsmith to come right on back, and we're super happy to see it. We have 3 Veteran Motorist, double Renegade Wheelsmith, and this is absolutely the color pair to be in at this table. Now we take some random filler that's quite likely to get cut. But these are perfectly reasonable cards if you just didn't have enough creatures at those mana costs, and you wanted to fill out your mana curve. Unfortunately, I don't think we got the Ballista Charger to come back. I think it's too late now for that to be a reasonable occurrence. We might just run Skyskiff and Caravan and that's it, and just play a generally aggressive deck, because even if you're just attacking with Wheelsmiths, this is a great card. A 3/2 that shuts off a blocker every time it attacks. Like, you don't have to be crewing things with it for it to be good. The Motorists, you do get more value from crewing, but just a 2-mana 3/1 that scries when it hits the board is already pretty decent as well, so I think this deck looks pretty great, even with a smaller vehicle count here. So we get to cut 5 cards out of the deck that we haven't cut already. There's nothing in the sideboard that I feel like I want to put back in. I prefer our Built to Smashes to our Precise Strike. I think Cathartic Reunion is just too much of a cost to cast. It's basically discard 3 to draw 3, right? Because you're discarding your Cathartic Reunion and 2 other spells as well. So you're not even up a card, it's just card selection. And that's pretty narrow. It's a super bad top deck late game when you've got 1 card in your hand and you draw into this, you're like, oh no. Yeah, and Conviction is just pretty slow. The idea behind Conviction is if you have a ton of cards that care about Revolt, which is having a permanent leave the battlefield, you can return this to your hand to trigger all of your Revolt cards in 1 turn. But I wouldn't run this in any deck that doesn't have like 10 Revolt cards or something insane, because otherwise it's just a pretty mediocre aura there. So yeah, nothing in the sideboard that we want to throw into the deck, so we just get to cut 5 cards out of the main deck here. Alright, so right now we're sitting at 18 creatures and 3 vehicles. I wouldn't count vehicles exactly towards your creature count. I wouldn't be like, so we're basically at 21 creatures and however many non-creatures. I'd count them as like half a creature though, because if you just spit out a servo token off an Artisan or an Aether Chaser or something, you're turning your vehicles like Skyskiff into basically full-on creatures, improving those tokens, making them very relevant. So this feels pretty high here. About 15 to 17 is kind of your average deck. We're a little more aggressive than the average deck, so I think I'm going to go like 16, probably 16 creatures, 2 vehicles, which means that at 18 creatures and 3 vehicles right now, we can just go ahead and cut our most mediocre vehicle and our 2 most mediocre creatures, which is probably some of the 3 drops like the Weld Fast Monitor and the Salivating Gremlins. I guess another option is the Bastion Mastodon here. Just another filler 5-drop. Just a big 4/5 to chunk things up. But Caravan, being able to get that mana off of it, making that actually useful is kind of cute. Curving 3-drop into 5-drop on turn 4 is kind of funny with it. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a million artifacts for this deck. This is not a great Salivating Gremlins deck. The ideal decks for this card are the ones that have a ton of Aether Chasers and Aether Swoopers, all those creatures that produce servos when they attack. Because then turn 4, you're attacking with the Gremlins, and like one of your Aether cards, you're spitting out a servo, and it's just a 4/3 without even playing anything that turn. That's where you're like really going crazy. But we don't have a lot of that. We just have artifacts for casting for the most part. Yeah, I'm going to cut Garrison, Gremlins, and Monitor, I think. I still kind of want to cut Bastion Mastodon. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it Mastodon. That's probably my Shards of Alara roots coming in hot. There's a card in Shards of Alara in Naya called the Mastodon. That's a fungus elephant. Very cool card, but not in this set. Not in this set at all. 2 more cuts to go. We already talked about how mediocre Conviction was as an aura, so we're definitely cutting that. And then Alley Evasion is the weaker combat trick in this deck when compared to the double Built to Smash. So we'll cut that and keep the Built to Smashes, and this would be the 17 land red-white build. 17 lands because we got 3 5-drops in here. We've got some mana sinks as well with these pacification arrays, taxing us 2 mana a turn in which we want to use those. We could absolutely cut a 5-dropper pacification array, put in 2 more cheap creatures, and go to 16 lands. But I think if we keep all this top end, 17 lands is perfectly reasonable, even though we are pretty aggressive. I don't think we have any really good, cheap, aggressive creatures, though, because all we would add in, if we're trying to put in cheap spells, is just like 2 more combat tricks, Precise Strike and Alley Evasion, or we're just putting in 3 drops like Gremlins and Weld Fast. I think I prefer just running this deck as is, with the 17 land build. And yeah, this will be our first deck for the return to Kaladesh Remastered, and looks like a pretty sweet one. Here's a look at the finished deck list for today. We're on a red-white aggro deck, but also a pretty streamlined, pretty focused by the books version of the red-white archetype in the format, which is red-white vehicles. Now, we're a little bit low on vehicles to be fully just like the default version of this deck with just 2 vehicles in here between Cultivator's Caravan and Skyskiff, but I felt it was right to just cut down to the best vehicles in the deck and just make the best use of our really aggressive curve with a lot of great creatures in general. We've got a lot of creatures that are just punching really hard for their mana costs, like the potential 1 mana 2/3 of Inventor's Apprentice, a ton of 2 mana 3/1s with Veteran Motorists, some 3 mana 3/2s that keep stopping a creature from blocking every time they become tapped, so that works when they attack or when they cruise something big like a Cultivator's Caravan. And we've got really excellent top end to our curve, really good finishers with the super beefy Scrapper Champion and the Dawnfeather Eagles to let us just attack with our whole board while still holding up all of our blockers. So really nice aggressive curve of creatures in general. A little bit low on interaction. We've got 3 pieces of quote-unquote removal with a Chandra's Pyrohelix and a couple pacification arrays that can be used to keep locking down our opponent's best attackers or their best blockers, or both if we've got enough mana. Late in the game, we can stop 2 creatures from blocking by tapping something during their end step and then tapping something during our first main phase before we go for the attack. So these can also help finish the game for us. They're just really flexible, really solid pieces of interaction that are really going to help make up for the fact that we don't have much straight up removal in the deck. So that's pretty much everything in the deck. We've also got some great cheap combat tricks to leverage alongside our aggressive curve of creatures. Make sure that when we're attacking in with our 3/1s and our opponents start blocking with some small creatures of their own, we can still keep them on board with cards like Built to Smash here. So yeah, pretty basic red-white aggro stuff. A little bit of the set's mechanics with cards that are triggering when they become tapped, because those cards work really well with vehicles, as well as just working well in aggressive decks in general. Just a little bit of everything you want to be doing in this archetype. See how it all plays out for us, see how the return to Kaladesh Remastered starts off as we head into the gameplay. Here we are for game 1 on the play. Really nice hand here. Trying to curve out with a wide board state to finish things off with Dawnfeather Eagle, getting a huge buff from that Enter the Battlefield effect. Looks like a great way to start the game. Whenever our opponent plays anything too scary, we've got the Fairgrounds Warden in hand as well. Take the turn off from whatever we were going to play and cast that instead. We are playing against another red deck. Start things with the Countless Gears Renegade. No Revolt trigger, but still a little 2/2 on curve. 2 mana up from our opponent now. They are on red-green, which tends to be an energy-focused deck. A lot of cards that can provide them with energy and then use those energy to get +1/+1 counters or servos. The green cards all tend to get +1/+1 counters. A lot of the red ones make the servos. I'd rather have a 3/3 or a 2/2 and a 1/1 here. I've got the Built to Smash, so I think I'm going to go for the 2/2 and the 1/1, and we can use the Built to Smash to clear out their large blocker. And the other reason, of course, to go for the 2/2 and the 1/1 is that we have the Dawnfeather Eagle once we hit our 5th mana. If I didn't have Built to Smash, I might just make this a 3/3, because against a green deck, like, the chances of them playing a 3 mana 2/3, like a Thriving Rhino or something, are relatively high, and then we wouldn't be able to get any attacks in here. Alright, so they're the full-on red, green, blue energy, which gives them access to all the energy cards, all the best energy cards in the format, like Whirler Virtuosa, which is incredible. It's a 2/3 and a 1/1 flyer at worst. Do I want to immediately Fairgrounds Ward it, or hold up the Built to Smash here? If I do this immediately, they respond by getting the Thopter, because they can do it at instant speed, then I have to Built to Smash a 1/1 up. Really don't want to Built to Smash a 1/1 up. I feel like because I'm going to have the 5 mana for Dawnfeather Eagle anyway, though, I am going to just do this. That I have a wider board state for the Dawnfeather next turn. So they make the 1/1 flyer. I guess trading a 1/1 servo for a 1/1 flyer is not a bad trade, so we still send in. Trading a Built to Smash for a 1/1 flyer, also not a bad trade. But they actually might just not block here, and they didn't block, they chose not to, so that works out fine. So they've got 4 mana now. They've got access to like any of the premium energy cards. Scrapper Champion, another Whirler Virtuoso. Hopefully they can't just kill the Fairgrounds Warden. Alright, attune with Aether. Grab whatever land they need and get a couple energy. Really good card for the 3-color energy builds. Fixing your mana, leaving some energy behind for later. And they're just going to pass from there. That's a sick draw. Alright, so we're hoping they don't have like Metallic Rebuke here, which is a pretty good counterspell in this format. It's a blue and 2 counter unless you pay 3. We don't really have an alternate line, unless I want to just hold up Built to Smash, but that is significantly worse than Dawnfeather Eagle. To where it's not worth playing around the counterspell to do that, because then if they don't have the counterspell, our turn is so much weaker. So let's send in here. Looks like it's going to be instant speed removal on the Warden. Yep, to get the Virtuoso back on blocks. Yeah, that's pretty great. Still get in 3, and all I lose is a 1/1, basically. Yeah, that's not the end of the world at all. They spend their removal spell on my Warden, and they kill a 1/1. So they only got like 1 extra 1/1 kill worth of value there. I mean, really, we're just quite behind just because of how good Whirler Virtuoso is here. I don't feel like I got monumentally tricked in losing a 1/1 servo. We're just getting demolished by Whirler Virtuoso. Now they've got 4 1/1s off of it with flying. It is one of the best uncommons in the format. And even if I find removal to kill it, which I guess I can't because our Fairgrounds Warden's gone, all we have is Pyrohelix left, which isn't enough to kill it. But again, even if I had the removal to kill it, they could just get the 2 flyers in response. Yeah, no, this thing's a 4-for-1 now. Virtuoso, 5-for-1. Virtuoso and 4 1/1 flyers off of that 1 card because of all the extra energy from their random stuff. These creatures hitting the board. Okay, well, I've got the mana to cast the Eagle and hold up the Built to Smash, so I suppose that is the play. We send in the team, and then Built to Smash wherever it's profitable. But it's looking pretty bad. Chump block, and that's it. Alright, you got it. There's the Scrapper Champion, so there's the finisher. Tax is a 3/3 double striker. We are not going to do anything about that. Well, now I can block it with a Mastodon. Okay. Send in just the flyers now. I think it's just way too suspicious to send in the 2/2 on the ground here. Alright, that doesn't look bad at all. We might be able to get there. A couple 3/3 flyers at this point, if they draw dead for a couple turns. That is the exact opposite of drawing dead. That is probably the best card left in their deck to draw. Another Whirler Virtuoso, my lord. Energy was wide open. So here comes Scrapper Champion, which trades into the Mastodon. And they still have the mana up to make another flyer, which means that they can trade into one of our Dawnfeather Eagles here. Yep, that's pretty gross. We still definitely have a chance here. But it's kind of a top deck war. They make a Thopter, trade into one of our Dawnfeather Eagles, take 3 and go to 5. Then they attack with everybody. We trade Artisan into Longtusk Cub to stop them from repeatedly getting energy. If both of us draws dead for the rest of the game, we win. But if I draw dead and they keep drawing gas, then we're going to lose. I guess they could also go for like just chumps here so they can save the energy to buff the cub so they know they can get it in without risking it dying here. But I think this is the safer play for them, kill one of the eagles. Alright, just draw some lands and we've got the game on lock. We just need to attack twice. Oh, wow, that's an incredible draw. That buffs the long tusk cub so we can't trade off with it, which means they're going to get the energy from the cub. Alternatively, I could just block this cub and force them to spend the 2 to save it, because if they do spend the 2 to save it, they no longer have the energy to make a 1/1 flyer on blocks, and I can put them to 2 and also kill them if I top deck Pyrohelix, or if I top deck Built to Smash. So, like, yes, they can, because they got the energy here, they can buff the cub and beat my Artisan, but then they don't block the eagle, and I have some top decks that just immediately kill them. Because the alternative is just, like, not blocking and then they have 5 energy, or they buff the cub and it hits us and they just get the energy right back. Yeah, I think we have to block here. Yeah. Because then if they don't spend the energy, that's a really good trade. If they do spend the energy, they don't get to get a blocker up. Alright, we hit a spell now, which is a good one because it's going to damage them, guaranteed, but they'll definitely have a blocker to trade into it. But that'll put them down to 4, which is something. So there's the Infiltrator. Let's see what they got here. They're out of energy. Send in double Virtuoso. It doesn't really matter if I kill one of the 2, it only matters if I can kill both of them, because either way, if they get 3 energy, they get to do the same thing. So I think I just don't block here, so we can crack back. Down to 12. Oh my god, what a draw. Okay. If that's the draw, I don't think we attack with Infiltrator. If we attack with Infiltrator, they double block with a 1/3 and a 1/2. I only kill the 1/3. I put them to 4. I can still deal the same amount of damage by just casting the Sky Skiff here and crewing it with Infiltrator, even if I don't attack with it. So let's send in the Eagle, cast the Sky Skiff, and just crew it in their end step, and then crew it during our turn and they're dead. Double crew is going to deal the 2 damage we need. Looks like they did miss the last 2 land drops, and that is all we needed to finish them off with Eagle. But now we had the Infiltrator kill as well, even if they found removal for Eagle, so really nice couple draws for us in the very end of that game. Makes up for the couple extra lands right before. And that is going to start things off 1-0 with pretty fierce competition. That was a really well-built Teamer Energy deck from our opponent. High-quality cards. Here we are now for game number 2 on the draw. Got an Apprentice that's just a 1-mana 1/2, so a little sad till we find an artifact. But even a 1-mana 1/2 can play fine in this format where there are servo tokens running around that are 1/1s. So that body can still be relevant. Speaking of bodies that are relevant, Gifted Aetherborn's a busto card. 2/3 Death Touch Lifelink. We're going to insta-trade our Motorist into that if we can, but if they have the combat trick up, which black has a lot of great combat tricks, then that's going to be super, super bad for us. I'm going to keep both of these. I think I'm going to have to Fairgrounds Warden the Aetherborn away. But black has multiple incredible combat tricks at common. One of them is Subtle Strike, which is gross against our deck. They get to put a +1/+1 counter on the Aetherborn and give something else -1/-1, so they kill the Motorist and make the Aetherborn a 3/4. But it also has +1/+0 Death Touch, or not Death Touch, +1/+0 Indestructible Lifelink for 2 mana, so I don't actually think we can block there because of the risk of all the great combat tricks that black has access to. We have to just Fairgrounds Warden instead. Hope they don't have straight removal. Yeah, and then we get to just attack with Motorist this turn, trade into a Monitor at worst. I guess I just attack with it pre-casting anything. Okay, now we Warden the Aetherborn until they find removal. Feels pretty nice that this game we got to Warden something that doesn't have an Enter the Battlefield effect, so They won't get like super solid value if they get to kill the Warden later. And later is right now. Welding Sparks is the play. Attack with the 3/2 monitor. We take that damage. Built to smash doesn't really matter against a Death Toucher. And a 2/3 doesn't attack into a 2/3 Death Touch, so we cast the Infiltrator instead of the Artisan this turn. Yeah, no blocks 100% means they have one of the combat tricks. Or else they wouldn't have made that attack earlier. Or they would have taken the trade right now, because they offered the trade earlier in the game. I guess it doesn't 100% mean that. There's other things they could have like drawn into that changed their game plan. But I imagine it's a rush of vitality. I think if it was a subtle strike, they would have killed Motorist by now. Put a counter on the monitor, kill the Motorist, something like that. So against +1/+0, lifelink indestructible, I don't think we make any blocks until we play a Glint Sleeve Artisan, then we throw a 2/3 under their 3/2. But if I just keep not blocking, they're going to outrace me with that lifelink. It's a hard position. Oh, Lord. Made even more difficult by the fact that they have double Aetherborn. All right. Well, we know what we're doing here. Just going for apprentice blocks with Artisan and a Servo. I really feel like I just lose to this rush of vitality however way I want to try to play it out. I've got a 1-mana ability they're holding up, which is just the monitor ability. So if they have Subtle Strike, we super lose, but they could have killed Motors with that centuries ago and we would have super lost anyway. This way, if they have Rush of Vitality, they only save one of the 2 cards here. If it's Subtle Strike, we like mega lose this game, but we were going to mega lose to Subtle Strike even if they use it outside of combat. Oh, it's Unlicensed Disintegration here. Interesting. Okay, this is only attacking creature set, doesn't help. Alright, that's pretty good. Maybe they just didn't have the combat trick. They just wanted to trade an Aetherborn early, and then they didn't want to trade it later, and then... I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is we're pretty dead here. It's just impossible to outrace double Aetherborn. I wonder... We probably could have done 20 damage by now. I don't know how much they've gained, but I imagine another 8 damage this turn. That puts them to 7 on board. So without all the Aetherborn life gain, they probably would have just been straight up dead. To 7 more damage. Or 8 more damage this turn, sorry. But that lifelink has gone so far. Maybe I just played too scared of the combat tricks. I guess we just see. I guess so. No combat trick here? Well. Oh, wow. Oh, no, okay. So I also just had more super explosive cards, and Built to Smashes are so bad right now. Alright. Super dead. Well, definitely didn't play that outright. They were really playing like they had combat tricks on hand. I guess we should have just went for our trades just immediately against the Aetherborns, even with that open mana up. But the part that really confused me was like the send in offering the trade on the attack, but then not taking the trade on blocks. Like if they're already actively cool with the trade. That was a weird one. But yeah, if they didn't have the combat tricks in hand, if we just traded off with the Poisoners much earlier, we would have made that game last a good chunk longer, maybe get a couple extra draw steps. Still like they had excellent follow-through, though, if we had just traded our creatures off early. They had Carry Zev and a Poisoner. They still only had 4 lands, so there's just more action in hand. Don't think it really mattered in the end, but obviously we were playing around ghosts. We were scared of our shadows there. They did not even have the tricks. This hand looks pretty good. Hawk into Wheelsmith to crew the Caravan. I guess we play the Caravan turn 3 then, so I can immediately crew an attack with it on 4. We are on the draw again. I think this format is pretty aggressive, so the play versus draw differential is definitely there. You'd much rather be on the play. Oh god. The classic on the play with the Mana Dork turn 2, so they're going to cast a 4-mana spell while I still have 2 lands on board. Just run laps around me here. Alright, I Spire Artisan is definitely not running laps around me. It's just a 3-drop. 1-4 reach or a 0-3 and a 1-1, and they go for the 0-3 and the 1-1. Let's get that Caravan down. So we can drop the Wheelsmith and crew it next turn. I could even play a Wheelsmith and a Pyro Helix next turn because I've got the 5 mana, or cast the Dawnfeather Eagle, but not on this board state. Holding all their mana up here. Now I have a Scrapper Champion, which is very tempting to slam onto this board. They have 2 power untapped. I could slam down the Champion and send in the Caravan. Crewing it with both my other creatures. I think that's fine. Solid draw here. Big scary threat. And we get to chip a quarter their life away. 5 damage hit off the Caravan. They don't even want to chump with a servo. Fenhauler. Well, that explains not chumping with the servo. Hey, Pacification Array is a good one. I think I'm still just going ham, right? So we go full control. So I can cast this Dawnfeather Eagle. And before its ability resolves, we crew the Caravan with it. So the Caravan's a 6/6. And the Champion gets the buff. And everybody's vigilant, so we can send in the whole team, jump the Champion in the sky so it doesn't trade into the Fenhauler on the ground, and make it a 8/8 double strike. Well, not an 8/8, a 4/4 double strike, so basically an 8/8 in terms of damage output. Might be worth it to just not spend the energy sending this into the sky, though. So I have the energy to put another counter on it, but a 3/3 double strike's still enough. I think I'm going to double up. I'm going to do both abilities. Alright, we don't need full control anymore. We just needed it to crew with the Dawnfeather Eagle before Dawnfeather Eagle's ability resolved. Alright, well this is huge damage. They chumped the 6 damage instead of the 8. So we take those. Now I've got a Pacification Array down to shut off a blocker. I've got a Pyro Helix to shoot them in the face for 2. I can even cast a Wheelsmith and crew the Caravan with that to shut off another blocker. It's a pretty ridiculous hand when it comes to finishing this game off. It's a Daring Demolition to kill the Champion. Do they have another reach creature or removal for the Eagle? If not, they're dead on board. I guess they need removal for the Hawk, not the Eagle, because I can crew the Caravan with the Eagle and then use the Hawk to send the Caravan into the sky to kill them. But like if they don't have removal, it is over on board even. Play it a little safer by crewing with the Wheelsmith here and just shutting off their only blocker. Alright, but it looks like it doesn't matter. This is like just in case I just immediately go to combat crewing Caravan with Eagle, send both these in, and then they just blow up the Caravan. This way they're still dead, because now if they blow up the Caravan, they still take 4 from these 2, and then I Pyro Helix for the last damage. But it looks like they did not have enough there, and we are now 2-1 heading into game number 4. Alright, here we are on the play for yet another game of Magic here. We've got a risky hand. The Caravan gives us the white source, but we gotta draw land to get to it. And I'm not doing anything till turn 3. It's definitely an arguable mulligan, but I'm gonna get greedy here and see if we can't top deck a land. 1 land is all we need, and we are golden. Any land in the deck. We are on a 17 lander. Playing against a green-red deck here with a turn 2 Druid of the Cowl. Can't deal with that with the Pyro Helix. Yikes. Probably the worst draw in the deck because we're not going to be attacking for quite some time. And there's a turn 3 Pima Outrider for the 4/4 trample. Or a 3/3 and a 1/1. Either way is pretty good. Alright, well, GG probably. Goodbye, Built to Smash. I think this was a reasonable keep. Maybe not. Oh, wow. Okay, we were never winning. Self-Assembler's a fantastic card. That's probably my favorite common in the format. Because you can draft it super highly since it fits in any deck, and it just, wow, makes sure that you have an endless onslaught from turn 5 onward. If you can get even just 2 copies. A 5-mana 4/4 that draws you another 4/4 is like a perfectly good card. They've got like a Built to Smash here. I'm just going to scoop. Okay. That's why I like taking it super highly, because you just get 2 and you're happy, but some drafts you can get 4 or 5 and then your deck is just unbeatable turn 5 onward. Looks like they just got 2. And we got some really poor draws here. On the plus side, our opponent curved out really well, so even with a good 6-card hand, didn't stand a huge chance of winning this one, but obviously better than not being able to cast anything all game. Here's another 2-lander. This time we've got some cheap spells, though, so it's definitely a lot safer. It's guaranteed to be good, even if I basically never draw a land, so this one's a snap keep. Not really any risk to it. Alright, turn 1, Inventor's Apprentice, and as soon as we get an Aether Chaser attack off and we get our Servo, that Apprentice is going to be a 2/3, which is super nice. I could also just cast a Pacification Array, but it's obviously better to curve out with our super sweet creatures first. Get our turn 3 Renegade Wheelsmith down, and then we've got a really wide board state. We're going to have a 2/3, a 2/1 First Strike, a 1/1 Servo, and a 3/2 that shuts off a blocker every turn. On turn 3. That's an insane board to have that early in the game. Speaking of insane cards, Glint Nest Crane's really nice, but unfortunately it missed for our opponent, which is a huge bummer for them. I kind of have to hold up Built to Smash here, because if I don't, they just block Aether Chaser with the Glint Nest Crane and kill it. So we cast the Pacification Array to buff the Apprentice to get more damage in here. We create a Servo as well. I totally forgot we didn't need to... Oops. We didn't need to play the Pacification Array to buff the Apprentice. But we're casting the Pacification Array because we're not casting Wheelsmith this turn. We're casting a Built to Smash. But I shouldn't have cast anything. I should have just went to combat and then Built to Smash and then played the Pacification Array post-combat. And that was dumb of me. I was literally earlier talking about how the Servo from the Aether Chaser would buff the Apprentice, and then I completely forgot. It's 4-color from our opponent? Could be 5-color. They've got another Renegade map, but they look pretty dead. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're not dead yet, but we can shut off like 3 blockers a turn because I have 2 Wheelsmiths and a Pacification Array. So we just Pacification Array the vehicle, and then Wheelsmith both of their creatures. I feel like the only way they have any chance of winning here is if they have a board wipe, so I'm not going to play another Wheelsmith. Just in case. Because if they don't have a board wipe here, we can Pacification Array during their end step and during our pre-combat main phase and shut off a blocker with Wheelsmith. Yeah, they're very, very dead on board. We just tapped the Cloud Blazer, now they have nothing to crew the Express, and that's well over lethal. Oop. Alright. So this game was just... This was just a 2-color aggro deck versus a 4 or 5-color grindy deck, where we had a great aggressive curve, which is kind of how things are going to match up there. We are 3-2 now, at least a 50-50 run for the return to Kaladesh Remastered, which is pretty cool. But we'll see how far we can take it as we head into game number 6. Here we are on the play for game 6. We're not going to do anything until turn 3, but we are going to play some of the best cards in our deck on turn 3, so it is a keep. Playing against the fellow red mage. They have taste, I see. Ooh, Boros mirror match. How boring. Not really. I'm fine with it. It'll definitely be a race, and we're on the play, which is a good spot to be on a race. Or in a race. It's a 3/3 that has to attack each turn of Fable. This is really obvious. But maybe they don't care. If I make it so my Wheelsmith can't block. Oh my, why? Maybe they thought I misclicked. It would be fair enough to think I misclicked there. That there's only two explanations. Either I misclicked or I've got the combat trick. I think against Boros, I'd actually rather just have a 3/3. Because if I make this a 2/2 and a 1/1, then it's in reach of cards like Chandra's Pyrohelix. Or there's the... Well, it's in reach of the Double Striker as well. Ooh, speaking of the Double Striker, we've got our own. I think we're in a good enough aggressive position to just ignore the Scrapper Champion for now and play our own, rather than immediately exiling it. Like, we can take the crack back from it, and then exile a blocker on our next turn to get our own in. And this way, if we top deck a basic land, we get to cast Wheelsmith and Warden next turn, which should be insane. Okay, Reservoir Walker's pretty good with the Scrapper Champion. That's a lot of energy. We didn't hit a land, but they didn't attack. So I can shut off all of their blocks if I Warden the Champion and just Wheelsmith the Walker. I think that's the better play, because if they have removal for the Warden, it would be less... It'd be less bad for us if they got the Scrapper Champions enter the battlefield effects to happen again than if they got the Reservoir Walker's ability to happen again. Because if they got the Reservoir Walker to happen again, they're gaining more life and it's going to take longer to kill them. So now they're down to 5, so it looks pretty likely they're just dead. There's the Thopter Rest for the Warden, but that's still only 2 blockers. They don't gain any extra life. We can shut off 1 with the Wheelsmith. Okay, that's 3 blockers. Shut off 1 and they basically have 2 blockers on board. Dawn Feather Eagle, my lord. Actually kind of a nombo with the Wheelsmith, which is an issue here. We don't shut off a blocker if I cast Dawn Feather Eagle for the turn. Is it better to post-combat the Eagle? I mean, if I attack with everybody, their best blocks are going to be... They have to chump the champion. So they chump the champion, they trade into the Wheelsmith, and they take 3. Go to 2 life. If I cast Dawn Feather Eagle and attack with all 3... 4/4 Double Striker beats any of these cards. But it already beats any of these cards without the buff. 4/4... It's kind of a hard choice. I don't think it changes too much playing the Eagle pre-combat. I think I'm just sending in to shut off the champions. They have to trade. They have to chump 1 and trade with another. And they're down to 2, and then we cast another Wheelsmith to shut off another blocker. Next turn? I think so. Alright, that is going to be enough. I don't know if that was the right way to try to navigate to lethal there. That is an interesting predicament with the way our deck is built. I think the Dawn Feather Eagles have still been really, really good. But not working with Wheelsmith abilities is a little rough. We've only got the 2 Wheelsmiths anyway. The fact that they don't work with Infiltrator is probably fine, but the fact that they don't work with Wheelsmiths did make that endgame Much more of a question with what was the right line than it would have been otherwise. So that's an interesting predicament we've got with our deck. Either way, cards still show up with just great force there that game, and they give us a 4-2 run so far, now guaranteed to be at right around the break-even point out of the draft. Pretty happy with this, but we'll see if we can't win any more, maybe get in the money at 5 or more wins. Whoa, this looks like a constructed deck. This looks like a Kaladesh era standard deck right now. That's a keep right there. Motorist and Wheelsmith, a Skyskiff to crew up. With the Skyskiff in the hand, do I actually cast that instead of the Motorist so I can crew with Motorist next turn? I guess it's less damage than just playing Motorist immediately this turn. Although I could go Skyskiff and then Apprentice plus Motorist next turn. Okay, that's kind of sick. Okay, I was going to say most damage is probably just play Motorist and then play Wheelsmith, but if I instead go Skyskiff and then Apprentice plus Motorist, I hit for 3 off the Skyskiff because I crew it with the Motorist, and I've got a 3-1 and a 2-3 on board alongside it, so my next turn is just nuts. Pyrohelix looks really good against this red-green deck. They've got a 2-1 down, so we can kill that and shoot them in the face for 1, if nothing else. But for now, we are just beating down. Find a Pacification Array and an Artisan. I will take both of these happily. I think I take the Pacification Array first, because then I play Wheelsmith and the Array next turn. And that is a perfect use of our mana. Get in there, Skyskiff. You're down to 17, and we have a wide board state super quick here. One of the really cool things you can do with vehicles, if you haven't used them too much before, is you can overcrew them. So you only need to crew with total power 1 or more, but if we really want to give our Skyskiff +1/+1 and shut off a blocker, we can crew the Skyskiff with the Motorist and the Wheelsmith if we want to trigger both of them. So that's nice to keep in mind. So this is crew 2. So if I Pyrohelix the Sage, they're going to crew the Dragster and have it up on blocks, so I don't think we're getting it on the ground here. 1 mana off from Pyrohelixing and Wheelsmithing to shut off the blocker on the ground. And if I just play the Wheelsmith, I can only shut off the Sage as a blocker. It could still crew the Dragster, and then they can block with the Dragster itself. Can I crew once it's a vehicle? I think they changed that rule. Maybe yes? There was some old way you could abuse vehicles that they nerfed. I'm kind of interested in seeing. Yeah, whatever. We'll find out, I guess. Let's see. So I crew the Skyskiff with the Motorist, and then I see if it still lets me crew it. Yes. Maybe they used to be able to crew themselves, and that might have been what they changed. There was some weird interaction like that. Okay, so since I can crew the Skyskiff again at instant speed, I can shut off the Dragster after they turn it into a blocker, so I can send an Apprentice alongside the Skyskiff. And if they choose to crew the Dragster, then we shut off the Dragster. Yeah, so we resolve that, and then we shut off the Dragster as a blocker anyway, because we don't care about our blockers at all. We are just here for damage. Boom. And then we drop the Pacification Array. Okay, very cool to see that interaction. That is super useful to know. I wasn't sure. I knew that you used to be able to do that, but I know that they changed the vehicle rule like a year or 2 ago for some weird interaction that showed up that they weren't okay with. I don't know what exactly changed about the vehicle rule. I guess I can look it up in between games here. All right, so back in 2022, so years after Kaladesh initially came out, they did change the vehicle rule. You used to be able to crew a vehicle with itself. They changed that part that you used to be able to abuse for specific corner cases where you really wanted to tap your own vehicle at instant speed to its own effect or something. So that is the rule that changed. So interesting little trivia fact there. I guess the main reason they did that was so you couldn't accidentally misclick and have your vehicle crew itself. Because it's probably a very, very rare scenario where you actually wanted to do that. So it was less of a nerf and more of just something to help the way digital Magic is played. I don't know if we can keep this. I mean, I can caravan and curve into these eagles, but I'm not going to have any creatures on board for them anyway. This is such a weird hand, and on the draw it is astronomically slow for our deck. Like, I like the caravan and the double eagle. They're all strong cards. You know what? I mean, I like the cards. I'll keep it here. I really don't know how I feel about this. Okay, Ruinous Gremlin is not fun. That means our Cultivator's Caravan is super dead. They get to trade their 1/1 up into my 5/5. It does cost them 3 mana to do that. Alright, well, we could just draw like an absolute champion. Hit a 2-drop to play on turn 2, and that astronomically improves this hand. Because now I am curving out a little bit. I've got a 2-drop, I've got a 3-drop, and then I've got a 5-drop on turn 4. As long as I draw a land. So good draws have made the hand look pretty reasonable here. Alright, Welding Sparks clears out the Eddy Trailhawk, and we're down to 18. Pacification Array's not a terrible draw. Against the Gremlin, it's not fantastic. They can just blow it up if they want, but that would mean that they no longer have the Gremlin to blow up the Caravan. I kind of want to play Caravan and Pacification Array. That's the most mana-efficient thing I can do. My issue with this... I'm still going to do it, but my issue with this is if they just blow up the Caravan with their next turn, I'm going to be pretty sad. But that'll mean they don't cast anything on their own turn, so they might not want to. Like, they could have a good 3 or 4 drop they would rather cast. And if they do that, this is by far my best play. Because I get to be mana efficient this turn and still cast an Eagle next turn. Alright, so they do have a 4-drop they want to be mana efficient with. Just a 2/2 flyer, so our Dawnfeather Eagles look fantastic against that. And yeah, we're just playing a 3/3 flyer. Normally I'd be pretty unhappy with not getting the enter the battlefield value, but looks super fine for this matchup. Their creatures are pretty small for their mana cost. They needed to revolt to make the aeronaut big enough to trade into Eagle. They did not have any permanents to revolt with yet. So just a 3/3 flyer for 5 looks super fine here. And they pass the turn. So now... Motorist to crew the Caravan, send it in. They probably Gremlin the Caravan, but that's fine. Yeah, get some Scry going here and get a wider board state before I cast another Eagle. If I drew a basic, I'd happily cast an Eagle and crew the Caravan before Eagle's ability resolves, but I didn't draw the basic yet. Okay, so we want to draw the basic still, and Built to Smash is fine in this position. We've got plenty of creatures to play. So I'm going to keep that. I'm pretty sure Caravan's just going to die to Gremlin this turn, which is why we want to draw into that land, so I can still play another Dawnfeather Eagle next turn. But if the Gremlin kills the Caravan, that means Pacification Array gets to stick around, which we get to use to tap one of their blockers during their end step. Ooh, take all the damage, no use of the Gremlin here? That might be a bad... No. Alright. Maybe they have a powerful Revolt card they want to enable. That's definitely it. They could have like a Vengeful Rebel or something. They needed a permanent to leave their battlefield this turn to trigger that card. Yeah, okay. That definitely explains that. So they get a nice little way to clear a lot of our board here. Just gonna array the Night Market Aeronaut in response, but I'm cool with them chipping in for 2 so I can tap the Rebel and guarantee some damage in. Although, no, I probably should have tapped the Aeronaut because I've got a Built to Smash, and I am about to draw another, so I should probably leverage these to clear out some of their board at this point. Alright. Still don't really care to Fairgrounds Warden, so we array down the Aeronauts. It's been a weird game. I have definitely not played this right, but I think we're doing fine, all things considered. Okay, we are no longer doing fine. Restoration Gearsmith is tremendous value. Picks up the Gremlin again. Okay, so they just want to blow up our pacification array pretty badly. Another Dawnfeather Eagle can absolutely close things out. They want to hit me for 2 in the sky. Is that fine? No, because Motorist is already not going to attack in well. Well, if I just cast Dawnfeather Eagle, then it will, sure. Take the 2, tap the Gearsmith, cast a Dawnfeather Eagle, and attack with a 4-2 against a 1-1. Looks like the line. They are down to 7. Chandra's Revolution, fantastic draw here. Kill our flyer, lock down one of our lands. Well, now we have to draw something, I think, to win this one. Send in the whole team. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage here. I think we take it with Warden in hand. Basic land would have been so much better, because then I could play the Warden and use the pacification array. Yeah, that is not one of the worst draws in the deck here, because it doesn't help at all. Change things at all. 6 damage on their board here. Do I pacification array or do I Fairgrounds Warden? Can stop the most creatures by pacification arraying when they go to combat, and again during my turn, and playing Warden during my turn. But if I play Warden now, then I have 2 creatures that would be lethal with a Built to Smash on board. I can't give the Warden haste. I think I need to Fairgrounds Warden so that even if Motorist dies, we have lethal Built to Smash next turn. If any creature gets in. Down to 4. This is lethal on board. They respond with a removal spell and we try to kill them with the other card. If they don't play removal till we attack... Ooh. Come on, Built to Smash. Built to Smash in a dream. Five damage. All right, that was really close. That was a lot closer than it needed to be. I did some really mana inefficient turns earlier where I should have done some better lines if I wanted to play the way I did. Really the turn where we wanted to leverage that Built to Smash. Either we should have tapped down their attacker to have a little bit more life before we went for our turn where we sent in with the Build to Smash, or we should have just cashed in and played the Dawnfeather Eagle as the 5-drop, and we would have gotten more damage in a little sooner. It's kind of some awkward turns in the middle there, but still get there in the end by the skin of our teeth, by the quality of our cards there, really. And that means we are now 6-2, I think? I think we went 2-2 into 6-2 now. Oh yeah, great record, whatever happens. Very far up in value. Getting an extra 300 gems and 5 bonus packs out of this event for only 1,500 gems of an entry fee. So spend 1,500 gems, get 8 packs, and 300 extra gems back. Feels pretty good. Feels like a great, great spot to be, but we're heading into the final boss, the final game of Magic for today, win or lose, and should be a spicy one. We'll see how this event finally wraps up as we head into our final battle. All right, here we are on the play with another hand that looks like a constructed deck. This looks phenomenal, and it is a snap keep. We've got the Motorist plus an Eddy Trailhawk to send it into the sky and get over their small blockers, or we can kill their small blockers with a Pyro Helix, or we can stop them from blocking with a Wheelsmith. The hand is looking good. Even if we don't hit lands, we have 3 very solid spells to play early, and we only need 1 land to cast anything in the entire hand. It could be any color of land as well. All right. Our opponent starts with an island. We hit a an Inventor's Apprentice as the draw. Let's play the Motorist so we can scry into mana. These are not lands, so they're going to the bottom. Dawnfeather Eagle on top as the better draw that late in the game. Not that it matters. It would be so insanely unlikely for this game to last that long. If we're not winning within the first 15 turns, we're definitely losing, I think, with our kind of deck. Apprentice and Pacification Array is a pretty solid use of the mana. Just get a 2/3 onto the board and an array ready to get used later. I think that's fine. We could also play the Eddy Trailhawk, so no matter what they play, we send the Motors into the sky and keep getting damage in with it. But I'm going to get the 2/3 down here. Poke them down to 17. They are blue-red energy. They've got the Era of Innovation, which can keep getting energy when they play artifacts and artificers. And once they have 6 energy, they can sack this to draw 3 cards, which can be really gross. There's an Aether Chaser, which is an incredible card, but we've got a card that's really good against it with the Chandra's Pyrohelix. That is 100% our play, which means we don't get to play a 3-drop with this 3rd land, but I think it's definitely worth killing the Aether Chaser before it spits out another servo and gets a bunch of value here. And I guess we just do it while they're tapped out so I can attack in with my whole team and not risk the Motorist dying to a first striker. I'm tempted to wait till their turn because it's possible they cast another Aether Chaser, but if they play correctly, they'll wait to do that till post-combat anyway. And I don't want to wait till they get the servo. Yeah, I could kill this and the servo, but by getting the servo, they just get the energy right back anyway. So it's not like they've spent anything to get that servo. Alright, there's a Glint Nest Crane. Picks an artifact up out of the top 4, but they miss. No artifact. There's an Aether Swooper, another fantastic Aether card here, spitting out a servo every time it attacks. They've got more than enough energy to do that. So, what do we do on this board? Probably drop a Renegade Wheelsmith. Attack both here, let the Motorist trade into the Glint Nest Crane. I don't think they want to trade with the Aether Swooper when they have that much energy over there. Although at this point with the 6 energy, they just sack the Era and draw 3. So maybe they do just take the trade to stick around longer. Yeah, I can only Pacification Array one of these creatures, which means the Pacification Array doesn't really matter enough to be worth not casting a creature for the turn. So we slam in with the team. We take a Veteran Motorist trade, and then the Apprentice bounces off the Crane or chips in for 2. Alright, cool. Ship it in for 2 then. Maybe not, maybe not. Okay, they are going to take the Swooper trade and stop all the damage this turn. So no servos. That means they're going to cash in for the draw 3 here. Which is not good for us. Getting some card advantage here because we can't deploy our hand quickly enough here to try to kill them before that thing pops off. And that is a huge way to stabilize. They're going to get very, very far ahead in card advantage. But just Inventor's Goggles make the Crane a 2/5 is all they do here. If they don't have removal for the Wheelsmith, we just hit for 5. We just shut off the blocker. Okay. Looks great to me. Don't even have to spend mana on Pacification Array. And I guess we are just being mana efficient here. Let's drop a 3/3, I think. I don't see a huge point in making some flying threats against a 2/5 flyer, so not going for the Sky Skiff or the Eddy Trail. Play the 3-drop, and that's enough. Scoop them up there. They must have just hit a clump of lands or something. Definitely just finding an equipment there as one of the cards they drew does not help them a lot because they're trying to get as wide a board state of blockers as possible. We have 2 different ways to shut off a blocker on each attack, which is super nasty. And that's going to be enough. That's a 7-win run for the return to Kaladesh Remastered. Pretty nice way to start it off. Started off with an absolute banger of a draft. And pretty different from your normal drafts of Kaladesh Remastered. Not in that, like, I was taking specific cards way higher than usual, but just that I got really locked into a specific archetype super early. That's really the only difference with this draft. I still think all the cards that we took super highly are really high picks, like Dawn Feather Eagles, Scrapper Champions, Sky Skiffs, Pacification Arrays. All these kind of cards, super high picks, Aether Chasers, Wheelsmiths, all that kind of stuff, Fairgrounds Warden. Super high picks for any deck. It's really just the fact that we locked in on these Boros uncommons so quickly and committed to red-white so fast over trying to take more Sky Skiff style cards for the first several picks of the draft. So yeah, really sweet way to start it off. Boros was obviously wide open. Biggest flaw of this deck is the lack of more interaction. I still think that I'm happy with my picks to take other strong creatures over those 3-mana white pacifism removal spells, because I still think those aren't great. They would have been perfectly fine in this deck, but I don't think our deck would have been significantly better with those over the creatures that we took over them. But that is still like the biggest flaw in our deck, is the lack of that kind of interaction for the most part. The build to smash is played pretty awkwardly here because we don't have a massive amount of artifact creatures, so it was just the +3/+3. We were rarely getting the trample, and we drew these in a lot of situations where they just weren't very good, or a lot of positions where they weren't very good. So those were some of the most filler cards, the Bastion Mastodon as well. I think these three have been the biggest underperformers, but everything else did pretty dang good. Was there anything that was much more impressive than I thought it would be? Any massive overperformers in the deck? Not really. We knew Wheelsmith, Scrapper Champions, and Motorists were all going to be great, and they were all great. So I think it's mainly just the underperformers here. Mastodon, we already knew it was our weakest creature. It was going to be big and dirtily, and it was big and dirtily, but the build to smashes I thought would actually be pretty decent combat tricks. And the narrowness of only working on attacking creatures did matter quite a bit. There were a lot of hands that we had with these. They were just not impressive. A lot of times we wanted to scry them away. We just didn't want them in our openers. Just did not work as well as I thought that they would with this kind of mana curve. So overall, obviously an excellent run. You cannot be unhappy with maximum prizes, the full 7 wins, and the maximum number of games played, thanks to getting a couple losses in there. So might have greeted myself in with that calculated risk in that second game that we lost where I didn't mulligan. It was a calculated risk, but I'm bad at math. That was definitely a partially self-imposed loss there. But on the bright side, it meant we got to play an extra game of Magic, get the full 9 games out of the run. But that's going to do it for today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members very much for their support, as well as you for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video and are interested in seeing more, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link in the description below. But other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.